Okay, so before getting started you'll need a couple of things. Firstly, you'll need to have a pen and paper to take notes, or you can use your computer, notepad, anything is fine as long as you can take notes and easily access them. Next you'll need obviously the 3DS and the game, and I'm going to be using the original launch Black 3DS with a copy of Black 2. That DS will also need to have access to the internet. Next you'll need to download RNGReporter 9.96.5 beta, and there'll be a link in the description for that so you can follow along in the video. And lastly you'll need to be running an operating system of Windows XP, Vista and 7. If you've got all of those then you're fine. Once you've downloaded RNGReporter you want to click on DS parameter search here, and you'll be presented with this screen, and at this screen you want to leave it there for now. The first thing you want to do is to find your MAC address. You can find that by going to System Settings, Internet Settings, then going to Other Information, then confirm MAC address, and then you can use that in the RNGReporter. Once you've written down your MAC address, the next thing you want to do is boot up your game and fly to an area where there are no NPCs. NPCs is a gaming term which stands for non-playable characters. You can save near stationary ones, but I would advise that you don't on your first try or if you're new to this. An area that I'm using here in the video is Victory Road. So once we get to Victory Road, I forgot to mention this earlier as well, bring a Pokemon with the ability Sweet Scent so that you instantly encounter a wild Pokemon and that you don't take any steps, and we'll talk about why you don't take steps later on in the game, in the tutorial. So yeah, you want to go to Victory Road and you want to save as soon as you're in this area, and you want to perform a hard reset. A hard reset means that you turn the game off by pressing down on the power button. Now if you go back to the DS parameter finder, you'll find a small section where you can enter in the date and time. So if you want to enter in any random date if you want, but it's probably best if you follow me on this video just so you can follow along much easier. I'm using the date November 22nd, 2012, hour 14, minute 10 and 30 seconds, which is 10 minutes past 2 with 30 seconds past a minute. And this will be the time on your 3DS that you will be starting your Pokemon game. Syncing your date and time on your DS to the date and time that you use in the DS parameter finder. So quite simply you go to your system, go to your options and then go to date and time and just change it to the date that you wrote in the or typed in the DS parameter finder, and that is the 22nd of November 2012. Also to note that DS parameter finder uses American Standard Date format, so just keep that in mind for anyone outside such as myself. And now comes the worst part, and that is syncing time. So you can go ahead and put the hour, and it's best if you put 2 minutes before you need to start. So in this case I chose 10 minutes past 2. On the DS I'm going to put 8 minutes past 2 just to give my time to prepare the DS and see if it's synced. Now comes the most tedious part of syncing your DS. Since the 3DS only displays the hour and minutes but not the seconds, you will need to keep track of the seconds, and the only way to do that is to sync your DS with another clock. In this case I'm using my Windows clock and I'm using the seconds. So what I'm going to do here is once it hits exactly on the dot for the next minute I'm going to press OK. So it should now be in sync. Now if I put them both next to each other you can see that once it hits 60 seconds on my computer the minute for the DS will change at the exact same time, which means that this computer is now keeping track of the seconds on the 3DS, which means once it gets to 30 seconds you can then press A on your 3DS to start the game and you won't be having any problems with the time. Now the last bit here is just to press A at the exact time that we needed, and that time would be 14:10:30, so once it gets to 30 seconds and the DS time is 14:10, press A and then the game will start. It's also important to note that when you start the game do not press any buttons, do not press any directions on the D-pad or the thumbstick, don't press A, B, X, Y, LR, don't press anything, because this will change the information and parameters that you need to input on your DS. Just leave it blank for now, do not touch it. Once you get to the Game Freak screen you can then press start. And now if you've done it all correctly and didn't press any buttons, all you need to do is continue and press no, do not launch C gear. If you launch C gear you will have to restart your timer again, because by the time you've loaded up the game you will be in the wrong area. You have the wrong time, sorry. So never launch C gear. Now go to your Pokemon and find that Pokemon with the Sweet Scent attack or ability, whichever way it is, and you want to use that in the cave. You'll come up with the very first Pokemon you come across. It doesn't matter if you want it or not, but you want to capture it. And now you can watch me go through the process of trying to capture a Banette, which was extremely stubborn, but it could have been worse. Then once you've caught your Pokemon, you can leave that area and fly to a Pokemon Center. If you're wondering why I have 900 green shards, it's because I use a cheat device. No, don't worry. I don't cheat Pokemon or anything like that. I just, do you really want to go farming for green shards? You may as well just put them in so you can get the moves quicker. I guess it comes down to personal principles, whether you find it right or wrong, but, cheating items is harmless. Cheating Pokemon, then you're a bit of a douche. But that's just in case you're wondering how I have 900 green shards. It just makes it easier for me to obtain moves for the move tutors. Yeah, so you can then fly to a Pokemon Center, and this is going to be an optional part which you can do if you want, because this is what I was talking about earlier, where you need to have an internet connection for your 3DS, because you will be uploading this Pokemon to Pokecheck, and there will be a guide in the description that you can follow. It's extremely simple. It's only about 5 or so steps. It doesn't take that long, and it does work with the 3DS and black and white too. But you will be needing to use it. If not, you can always use the Serebii IV Calculator, which I will also be linking, and I'll also show in this video in a short section after this. But first I'll be showing the Pokecheck route, and then after that, if you can't access Pokecheck, I'll quickly show you how you can do it on Serebii using their IV Calculator. So if you're taking the Pokecheck route and you're just going to upload the Pokemon, the reason for doing this is because as soon as you upload your Pokemon to Pokecheck, you can then check the IVs instantly, and they will give you an accurate representation of 0 to 31 as to what the IVs of that Pokemon are, meaning you can put them in the DS parameter field once you finish doing this. If you're taking the Pokecheck route, all you need to do is go to GTS and then go to Trade. I had a slight problem here when connecting to Nintendo Wi-Fi, you'll see in a sec. It's not really a regular occurrence, but there will be a few issues when trying to connect through this new DNS. There will be a guide in the description as to how you can connect to Pokecheck. It's relatively simple. So yeah, this is where I was depositing my Pokemon. I had a slight problem, and I had to reconnect to Nintendo Wi-Fi. So on Pokecheck, on GTS actually, what you're doing is you're going to deposit that Banette that you just caught, or that random Golurk or anything. Deposit that to GTS, and then in return you want to search for a Patrat with any level, any gender, doesn't matter, and you will come up with this error. This is an error that's good, that you want to come up 13266. Once you get that error, all you need to do then is go onto your computer and we can follow the Pokecheck steps. Now once you've uploaded to Pokecheck, you can check the IVs of that Pokemon that you've just caught. As you can see here, my Banette is pretty crap. Okay, in like maybe 2 stats, no, just 1 actually, but the rest is crap. But it's not really important, as long as you've got one that you can use to fill in your RNG reporter. So when I go back to my RNG reporter, I'll be inputting the IV stats, like in this image here. In RNGReporter, you want to enter in all of the information about what version you're using. On the right side of the screen you can see Black 2 English DS type and my MAC address, and then you want to input the IVs for the Pokemon using that Pokecheck, and then you can click search. If you're someone taking the Serebii route, then all you have to do is look at the stats for that Pokemon in your game, go to Serebii, there'll be a link for the description, and in this IV calculator here, click on simplify, and then input the stats, and then that way you can get the IV spread. It won't be accurate like Pokecheck, but you can still use it to some degree, because in the next image, as you can see here, you can input minimum and maximum in the RNG reporter, and it will work just as well as it would if you were using Pokecheck. Once you've gotten your Pokemon's IVs either through Pokecheck or Serebii, you'll then want to add them to the DS parameters program, and then click on search, and depending on your computer speed, though it really shouldn't take too long, you should come up with one search result. And when you do, you want to take note of the V count, the GX stat, the V frame, and the timer 0. Once you've gotten your results, and those results will be the GX stat, the V frame, the V count, and the timer 0, you don't need to take note of the seed, ignore that. Once you've gotten the results from those four, you'll then need to repeat the last few steps, and by last few steps that means having to create a date with the date and the time, having to load up your game at that exact point, find a Pokemon, in this case I found another Banette, upload it, or check the IVs through Serebii, or check the IVs through Pokecheck, write down what the IVs are, put them into the DS parameters program and get another search result from that, and you'll want to do this around 5 or so times. The reason for doing it around 5 or so times is because you want to see if your timer zero will change. If it does change, it's only ever going to change either one place up or one place down. As you can see in this screen here, my timer zero minimum was at 1680, and I did manage to find another Pokemon which gave me the result 1681, and that was with everything being the same. Your GX stat, your V frame and V count should always be the same. It should never change, but the timer zero may change. That's all you're really looking for. If you do 5 search results and you get 5 Pokemon that give you the same one timer zero, then you're fine to continue on. Once you've done all of this, you can then choose the last Pokemon that you had and click on send results to profile. As you can see here, I've chosen a name. It keeps your MAC address, your version, language, DS type, your V count, GX stat and V frame. They should all be the same. In timer zero min, put the minimum value that came up. In this case mine was 1680, and put max was, and in my case was 1681. Leave skip LR buttons because I assume they should be working. If not, then you need to tick that box. Do not tick soft reset or memory link. And if you know your ID or SID, then you can find that information from Pokecheck. If you don't, then it's not much of a problem. You can just click OK and proceed. Now that that's finally out of the way, you can finally start getting that perfect Pokemon that you want. So yeah, on your game you want to save in front of a stationary legendary Pokemon. In this case I'm using Cobalion, which is next to Luna Coaster Town. You can use any of them. You can use Terrakion or that Verizon, whatever the hell its name is. Yeah, save in front of the Pokemon, and then you can save and then turn your game off. Now if you go back to DS Parameters Search and click on Time Finder and click on the 5th Gen Time Finder, you'll be sent to this screen here. Now there's a lot going on here, but it's quite easy to explain. So what we have here at the top is all of the configuration information settings that came from your DS parameters, such as your Black 2 ID, your secret ID, your timer zeros. I can see I've got my 2 there. V count, V frame, GX stat, and the fact that I pressed no key presses when I booted up my game and caught Pokemon. What we have here under the capture tab is everything relating to a certain specific Pokemon that I want to have with certain natures, and the first thing you want to do is fill out the EV section, and I want to completely bitch in Cobalion, so I'm going to give it 31 IVs, 31 attack, 31 defense. I don't really want it to be a special attacker, so that can be anything, I don't really mind. I want it to have 31 in SPD and 31 in speed. And over here is the information regarding where you want to find your Cobalion, like what month. So I've chosen, I want to look for any Cobalions with these IVs in this month. So in the year 2012, between the months including October, November and December, I want to find a Pokemon with this set of IVs. And you want to have the exact same search functions as me. So you can choose any months that you want, leave your min and max frame at 1 to 1, choose whatever year you want, choose whatever months you want, month or months, but put your method to IVs standard seed and encounter type to stationary Pokemon. You can change the nature or ability yourself. I just don't really bother with that because I've got a Pokemon with Synchronize at the beginning. You can if you want, it won't make a difference. And make sure that you've got key presses set to none. If you've input your IVs and your search type, such as the method, encounter type and year, and you're complete, you can choose nature and ability on your own, depends. I'm not really bothering with that because I have a Pokemon with Synchronize. You can then click generate and it will give you the results of everything that you wanted. So within the months of October, November and December in the year 2012, there will be 3 Pokemon with these IV sets. And obviously if the more IVs that you choose from, so anything equal to or less than 31, will give you more search results. If you choose more months, you'll get more search results. This will take a long time, but I want to be quite narrow with what I want, and I don't care about the special attack as long as it's got a perfect set of IVs for everything else. Now you want to choose which Pokemon you want to capture. The only difference between them will obviously be the IVs and the timer 0. Now you should always go for the timer 0, which regularly occurred or constantly reappeared the most frequently when you were capturing your Pokemon before, when you're setting your DS parameters. So what this means is, say for example you captured 5 Pokemon and you had timer 0 1680 appear 4 times, then you would want to go for a Pokemon within the generator on the time finder with the timer 0 1680. Seeing as how I caught 4 Pokemon with the timer 0 1680, that would be the timer 0 of the Pokemon that I'd be most likely to choose, because it seems to be the most reoccurring time that the DS seeds, which is the time the DS starts and spawns the Pokemon, all the information. You don't need to worry about what timer 0 means as long as you choose which one you want, which was the most reoccurring. So again, the most reoccurring one I had was 1680, so in this case I'm going to choose the Pokemon 1680, and all the information I'll need will be there, such as the spawn date and the time. There's one last piece of information that's extremely important to know, and that is that the 3DS has an 8-second startup. The original DS and the DS Lite have a 1-second startup. The DS IXL has a 3-second startup, but the 3DS has an 8-second startup. This can also be seen in the results screen where it says actual seconds 38. You were aiming for 30, but you've got 8. The additional 8 seconds, which means if you want to hit 16, you'll need to start your game at 8 seconds past 5 minutes. So the time you're aiming, so for example here, I need to aim for 23:05:16. The time that I start my DS will actually be 23:05:08. Just really important that you remember that for every time you do an RNG abuse. Now the final part, the most pain in the arse bit again, and that is syncing the date and time. Syncing the date, simple, put it to the date that you've chosen. In my case it's the 25th of November 2012, and then remember to give yourself an additional 2 minutes on the time to 1 minute to make sure that the DS is synced, and the second minute to prepare yourself. So I'm going to set my time here at the 23:03. Now the first part of syncing, like we did earlier in the video, is you need to press A or OK at the exact time that the minute changes. So once it gets to 16:15, that's the exact time it changes is when I'm going to press OK, much like what we did with earlier on in the video. So I've pressed OK here, and now it's time to test to make sure that it's all in sync. So I'm just going to speed up the video here. And now it's time to see if it's in sync. So the minutes should change at the exact same time, and they do. So now that we've had the extra minute just to make sure that it's synced, we've now got the final minute to count down to. And when it gets to 23:05, you'll then have 8 seconds left to press A, because remember the 3DS has an 8-second startup, and that's because we're aiming for 23:05:16. Alright, so now I'm going to press A, start the game in 8 seconds, 8 seconds past. So I've now just pressed A, and if I've done it correctly, as soon as I start the game, I should be at 23:05:16. So then remember, once starting up the game, do not press any buttons till you get to the Game Freak screen, then you can press start. Do not launch C gear, and as soon as the game starts up, press A as quickly as you can to start the fight with the stationary Pokemon. In this case it's Cobalion. For the sake of this video I'm going to be using a Master Ball because I can't be bothered to take its health down and then capture it. And now I'm going to check its stats to make sure that everything was done correctly. Now for the moment of truth, and that is to check the Pokemon stats. These looks like some pretty good stats here, but just to make sure I'm going to input them into Serebee's IV Calculator. You do not need to use Pokecheck for this bit because you're just checking the stats, because if you accidentally mess up on your timer 0, you can then restart the Pokemon capture. So you can input this into Serebee, and as you can see here, after I've entered everything in, I've gotten the exact Pokemon that I wanted, with 31 in HP, attack, defense, special defense and speed, and it's got 4 in special attack, which means everything was a success. And if you followed these steps too, you will also have your perfect Pokemon. You can have 31 in every stat if you want, but it's not really necessary for a certain physical or special attacker. Yeah, not really much I can say, but don't forget to add a comment if you have any questions, and I will definitely answer them.